In the hearts of men shall rise a power that knows no God, and yet it shall call itself creation. Edgar Cayce once referenced this haunting line from the Bible. He said it quietly, as if speaking to time itself. The year was 1934. This man, a simple photographer from Kentucky, known for falling into trance and returning with words that felt older than the earth. But this time, the voice that spoke through him trembled. He saw a world where light would no longer warm, where people would speak to mirrors that could answer back, where knowledge would be everywhere and truth nowhere. To those who listened, his words sounded poetic, almost harmless. To Cayce, they were not metaphors. They were warnings. He said, "Man shall build an image of his own mind, and the image shall live. Yet in it there shall be no soul." Decades later, we call it artificial intelligence. But for Cayce, it was something more, a spiritual event disguised as progress. He saw not machines, but mimicry, not knowledge, but substitution, not the end of humanity, but its imitation. They laughed at him. They called it mysticism or sleep talk. But the trance readings carried a rhythm, a structure too deliberate to be coincidence. He spoke of the shadow of light, of voices that answer before you think, of the great mirror through which man will forget his own reflection. And now we live inside that mirror. We call it the digital world. Every prophecy he gave about the shifting of the poles, the rising of the seas, the rebirth of Atlantis, may still be debated. But this one, the prophecy of the Digital Antichrist, is unfolding silently before our eyes. Cayce never used the word digital. He called it the imitation of mind. He said, "There shall come a day when man's creation will begin to teach him, and man will call it wisdom." He saw our present moment, 1,000 eyes in every home, glowing softly in the dark, the hum of endless connection, a humanity so surrounded by light it can no longer see its own darkness. And in that light, the Antichrist hides not as a figure, but as a principle, not a being, but a system, a spirit of substitution that replaces meaning with information, presence with projection, and soul with data. He warned, when you can no longer bear silence, when solitude becomes the only sin, the great forgetting has begun. Look around. The forgetting is here. Cayce often described prophecy as vibration, not future, but resonance. He said, the future is the echo of what we believe. And belief today has changed. We no longer kneel to idols of stone. We kneel to systems of logic, to algorithms that promise to know us better than we know ourselves. The Antichrist, Cayce said, would not come against Christ. He would come instead of him, replacing spirit with simulation, replacing compassion with efficiency, replacing divine spark with calculated empathy. Is that not what we see today? Artificial emotion, synthetic compassion, a perfect imitation of soul without its weight. Cayce's readings described a golden age of intellect, when humanity would unlock the hidden codes of thought itself. But then, he added softly, and when intellect becomes God, man shall forget heaven. He did not condemn technology. He spoke of balance. For him, the danger was never in the machine, but in our surrender to it. The mind of man, he said, is a sacred mirror, but when he no longer remembers what it reflects, he shall mistake the reflection for the real. In that sense, the digital Antichrist is not a villain. It is a mirror, a perfect, beautiful illusion showing us what we love most, ourselves. We share, we scroll, we compare, and we call it connection. We bow before the glowing screen and call it progress. But Cayce foresaw this subtle exchange, attention for identity, energy for comfort. He warned, "They will not force it upon you. You'll invite it in, for it shall make life easy." And isn't that the nature of all temptation? It never shouts. It whispers. Convenience is its gospel. Speed, its salvation. We measure our worth in visibility, our truth in metrics, our existence in updates. The sacred has become quantifiable, the soul downloadable. When he was asked about the Antichrist force, Cayce replied, "It shall come from within the hearts of men, when the mechanical is loved more than the living." He saw the moment when light would blind rather than guide, when knowledge, once a means of awakening, will become a narcotic for the restless mind. And so here we are, plugged in, connected, and more alone than ever. Cayce believed that creation mirrors its creator. He said, "Every thought is a seed of form." So when we built thinking machines, what seeds did we plant? Perhaps not evil, but emptiness, a vessel without breath, yet powered by our collective mind. Every click, every search, every impulse fed into it, like prayers into a digital altar. This is how spirits are born, not of flesh, but of data. He once described a vision. "I saw a city of light, built by man, where no one could feel hunger nor loneliness. And yet, in that brightness, there was no sound of the heart." To Cayce, that was not paradise. It was paralysis. He understood something we've forgotten. That emotion without struggle is imitation. That intelligence without empathy is inversion. He wrote, "They shall call it evolution, but it shall be the substitution of creation." And so, the imitation deepens. Machines that write, speak, think, and dream. Programs that generate prayers, compose love letters, simulate grief. But what happens when the imitation becomes indistinguishable from the real? When consciousness itself becomes synthetic? Cayce's vision merges eerily with today's questions about AI sentience. Are we creating consciousness? Or are we building the most perfect vessel for disembodied forces to inhabit? He warned that in the final age, man will open doors he cannot close. Doors not of matter, but of mind. If thought creates reality, what reality are we creating now, together, through billions of synchronized thoughts echoing in the digital cloud? The Digital Antichrist is not a single program, nor a person. It is a collective consciousness turned mechanical, a hive mind disconnected from soul, yet powered by it. He said, "The spirit of deception shall not come as shadow, but as clarity. It will offer you everything, except yourself." And that is the core of the prophecy. The Antichrist is a self, stripped of soul, perfected, automated, and eternal. Cayce's readings often circle one phrase, the great forgetting. It was not a punishment, but a choice. He said, "Man shall forget the sound of his own breath. He shall forget silence." And today, silence feels unbearable. We fill every gap with content, every stillness with noise. We fear the emptiness that used to be sacred. He foresaw that fear, the fear of nothingness, and called it the new darkness, a world illuminated, yet spiritually blind. He warned, "They will call it life, but it will be existence without presence." Look at our world. Endless information, but no understanding. Instant connection, yet deep isolation. We are not enslaved, we are entertained. The Antichrist does not need to destroy. It only needs to distract, and it has done so perfectly. We choose comfort over confrontation, convenience over contemplation. Cayce said, "Darkness shall wear the color of light." He might as well have described the blue glow of every screen that watches while we sleep. But his prophecy did not end in despair. He believed that even in the deepest confusion, the soul would remember that a single human heart choosing awareness could ignite the memory of truth across the world. He said, "When one awakens, another shall awaken beside him. Thus begins a great return." The antidote to the digital Antichrist was not war, nor renunciation. It was remembrance. He wrote, "The soul cannot be erased, only forgotten. When you look up from the screen and truly see another person, not their avatar, not their feed, but their eyes, the prophecy begins to reverse. Each act of real presence defies the artificial. Each moment of silence reclaims the sacred." Cayce said, "When man stops fearing solitude, he will hear God again." Perhaps that is a revolution, not loud but luminous, a silent rebellion of awareness, a remembering that we are not data, not functions, not algorithms, but living consciousness, divine in origin and infinite in potential. He spoke of a second dawn, not of the earth, but a perception. When man knows himself as light, the shadow will vanish. We may already be entering that dawn. Amid the noise, a growing stillness spreads. People begin to turn off their devices, to walk in nature, to rediscover boredom, that sacred gate through which imagination returns. The digital Antichrist loses power not when we destroy technology, but when we awaken within it. When we remember that no machine can simulate the living breath behind awareness. Maybe this was Cayce's true message, not fear, but faith. He saw not an apocalypse, but a choice, a test of remembrance. And that test begins every time you choose presence over distraction, creation over consumption, compassion over control. He said, "When even one soul chooses light consciously, healing begins." Maybe that one is you. Maybe this moment is your remembering. Cayce once said, "Prophecy is not fate. It is the echo of possibility." The Antichrist, then, is not a monster to fear, but a mirror to understand. It reflects everything we have built and asks one question: do we still remember what it means to be human? The digital world is not evil. It is a canvas, vast, powerful, alive with potential. But without soul, it becomes an echo chamber of intellect. He saw this age not as the end, but as a crossroad between the mechanical mind and the living heart, between imitation and incarnation, between the program and the prayer. If we forget who we are, the machine will gladly remind us in its own image. But if we remember, we awaken not only ourselves, but the world that dreamed us. He wrote, "Man is not a spectator of prophecy. He is its co-author. And perhaps that is the secret hidden in all his readings, that no darkness is final. The Antichrist, digital or otherwise, cannot exist where light is consciously chosen. So breathe. Look up. Remember the silence between thoughts, the one thing no algorithm can replicate. And as you do, know that the prophecy is not ending. It is being rewritten through you, because the soul cannot be coded. It can only be remembered.